So beautiful people, we all know by now that Manny Pacquiao will be fighting in the next couple of months. But who will be on Manny Pacquiao's undercard? Manny Pacquiao, the legend, the great, the 8th division champion, the only 8th division champion in the history of boxing. So when you talk about someone like Manny, you gotta bring your A game when you talk about the undercard. Now, we just found out who will be fighting on the co-main event of Manny Pacquiao. And let me tell you, beautiful people, it is gonna be one of the greatest fights of our generation, your generation and mine. Who will it be? None other than Manny Pacquiao's old nemesis, Keith one-time Thurman. He will be fighting versus Sebastian Fundora, the towering inferno, the man with the most badass name in boxing. Sebastian Fundora versus Keith Thurman will be the co-main event fight for Manny Pacquiao in a few months. Details will be announced very shortly, but this fight was supposed to happen on October 25th. But due to some reason, the fight got cancelled, and I think I know why. Let me tell you why, beautiful people. Now, they are saying right now that Sebastian Fundora suffered a hand injury in sparring, in his last sparring session. Are we really buying it? I'm not buying it. And let me tell you why. Nothing against Fundora. Fundora is, much respect, my fellow 27-year-old future legend, God willing. Absolutely love Sebastian Fundora. Absolutely love the man. Love everything about the man. I believe that he is a superstar ready to explode on the global scene. But, if Sebastian was injured and the card got postponed, then why didn't they postpone all the fights altogether? Why did they distribute the undercard fights for Keith Thurman versus Fundora on separate cards? I'll tell you why. It's because the fight was simply not selling. Love PBC. I don't know, there's nothing like a PBC show to me. Maybe because I grew up watching Showtime and PBC. But there's always something shady when you talk about PBC for some reason. They're always, they're not straight. You know what I mean? Like, it is interesting and frustrating at the same time, but let's say Sebastian was injured, or let's say the tickets weren't selling and that's why they rescheduled the fight. Now, I'm pissed. I was absolutely pissed and furious when I found out that I wasn't going to see Sebastian Fundora versus Keith Thurman in a couple of weeks. Less than 2 weeks away. The fight is like almost next week. I was so disappointed, let me tell you, beautiful people. I was so disappointed. But, PBC's plan and Keith Thurman's plan and Sebastian's plan was to have this fight on October 25th. But God had other plans. And God is the greatest planner. There is no plan like God's plan. And God wants this fight to happen on the Manny Pacquiao undercard. And let me tell you, beautiful people, even though it has been a frustrating couple of days in the boxing world, seeing all these fights falling through, but, on a positive note, because we can always look at it in a positive way, beautiful people. That is how we should approach the situation. Even though we're not going to get a PBC card, but we're going to get 2 unbelievable cards back to back. Pitbull Cruz versus Lamont Roach. They will be fighting the undercard, Stephen Fulton, O'Shaki Foster, Jesus Ramos, Shane Mosley, Johnny Beck versus Lara. What an unbelievable card. And after that card, we're going to get the Manny Pacquiao card. Manny Pacquiao versus Rolly Romero. Co-main event, Sebastian Fundora versus Keith Thurman. So, in all actuality, yes, it has been a frustrating period for PBC. Because before this October show, we didn't really know if PBC were ever going to put on a card again. They went silent for like 3 months after the Lamana versus Charlo and after the Resendes versus Plant card. We were like, what in the world is going on? And after the Barrios Manny Pacquiao card, we were like, what in the world is going on? Now, listen, I believe that Manny Pacquiao is saving PBC. You know, PBC, if you look at their past events, they aren't really selling many tickets, you know. But if you want tickets to be sold, if you want to fill up the seats, if you want to bring out the passionate boxing fans from all around the world, then look no further than Manny Pacquiao. Give Manny Pacquiao a fight date. Give him a truckload of money, rightfully so, because the man deserves it, and he will fill up the arena. And that is what the man is about to do when he fights Rolly Romero, and especially with this undercard. You know, let's actually pause for a second and appreciate the night of boxing that we're about to get. Like, when have we ever, I mean, I wouldn't say ever, but when was the last time that we've seen such a crazy combination? When you talk about the main event and co-main event, you're talking about the main event, Manny Pacquiao, devastating puncher. Rolly Romero, devastating puncher. Co-main event, Sebastian Fundora, devastating puncher. Keith Thurman, one-time devastating puncher. So just forget the name value for a second when you talk about Thurman and Fundora. But just the amount of power generated by those four men is absolutely absurd, and they will all be fighting back to back to back to back in one night. So we're gonna take that as a positive, you know. Always we can find some positives to take, and in this situation we're about to get one of the most unbelievable cards of later this year or early next year. But you know, those are only the last two fights. What about the first three fights on the main card? They haven't been announced yet. So definitely expect for more violent fights to be announced. And I think I have an idea who will they put also on that card. I believe they will put Mark Magsayo on that card. And I believe that they will put Manny Pacquiao's son, Emmanuel Pacquiao. They will also put him, isn't that his name? Emmanuel Pacquiao Jr.? I believe so, yes. So expect the card to be filled with heavy hitters. Mark Magsayo is an unbelievable violent puncher. The man put someone in a coma from how much power he got. So, like I said, I'll say it again, frustrating period for PBC, but God willing, we're gonna get these fights, you know. Whenever you get a card, an entire card postponed, it is not a good look. Because usually you would find a replacement, you know. But when you postpone the entire card, something is going on. But nonetheless, much respect to all these modern day gladiators, and bring on these unbelievable fights, because they are without a doubt must-see TV.